is up, and welcome back to the Writer's Block. I'm your host, Noah Black, and today is actually going to be a little bit different of an episode if you can't already tell from kind of the way the format is, if you check it out on YouTube and stuff like that. But I'm going to do a little bit of a solo episode just to try it out. I've had some people tell me to try this kind of format out and been doing some types of Q&As and stuff through Instagram and Facebook and things like that. To where people have asked questions specifically about my latest release, my newest album, Uno. And so this podcast is going to be kind of formed all around that, of just kind of answering some questions about it, as well as just some general questions about kind of the songwriting process and things like that. And so hopefully you guys, if you like this format, let me know. Be sure to leave a comment below or send me a message. Let me know kind of what you think. Because typically I wouldn't do something like this. I like having a guest to be able to talk to and stuff like that. But yeah, we're just gonna jump right in. And so before we get into any of that, this podcast is powered by Creative Corner Co. And so be sure to go to creativecornercompany.com and check out all the different resources, all the different fun entertainment things we have going on over there. As well as, I typically don't do this, but since it's a solo episode, I can do whatever I want. Be sure to head over to the shop, creativecornercompany.com/shop, and check out some of the merch we have there. And it helps support the channel and everything we have going on here. And so let's dive right in. Like I said, this is going to be a lot of talking about my songwriting processes and just how specifically putting together my newest album, Uno, and kind of the processes of, things I'm even working on now and all those releases. So I put up, I guess a prompt is what you call them, on Instagram, Facebook, those platforms where people can kind of engage. And so be sure you can follow me on Instagram at Noah C. Black. And anytime I post one of these prompts, you can kind of ask questions and things like that. And so I'm going to answer some of these and just kind of unpack some thoughts and stuff like that. These people had really, really great questions, and so I'm going to hit as many of these as I can. There were quite a few, and so I may not get to all of them in this episode, but we're just going to jump right into it. So first question, we're going to kind of focus this selection of questions on my newest album, Uno. And so the first one was, what is the meaning of the album name? So it's kind of dual purpose. The small kind of easy reason. It's not as significant sentimentally or anything. But Uno is number one. It's my first album, so it was the first thing I put out, and so that felt like a kind of natural, easy Uno. It works well for that. But the more deep sentimental reason is when I first started producing, writing stuff for myself as an artist, not writing for other people, not writing for other bands and things like that. Was also around the same time that my niece was born. And my niece, the name that my brother, her dad, sorry, got a brain confusion. Her dad kind of came up with a creative uncle name because I didn't just want to be just Uncle Noah, but he kind of combined that Uncle Noah thing and made it Uno. And so there was a big significance. And so as she's kind of grown up as a human and as a person, I've grown as an artist, a songwriter, and things like that. And so it felt like a good homage to her for the project to be called Uno, for Uno being meaning number one, and then to that being, such a significant impact on my life. And so that's where the album name comes from. So great question, David. Next, Kim asked, what is my favorite song off of Uno? So this one, it's a difficult one, but for me, I think it goes to two different ones for two different reasons. One, all around, is like a song, melodically, creatively, things like that. I love Grandparents. Grandparents has been a big one that it just means a lot to me lyrically. But also I feel like it's a very catchy song, as well as it can resonate with a lot of people, just dealing with the topic of loss and things like that. Everybody has experienced that to a degree. And so I think that it can connect with people that way, and just all the kind of elements of it. I feel like it makes it one of my favorites for sure. But from that standpoint, that one would be it. But from exclusively production, not lyrics, not anything else apart from just creating the beat and everything, I would say I'm Not Sorry. I really, really love the way the production turned out for I'm Not Sorry. It was a fun, everything just kind of flowed in the session when I was creating that song. And so that one I just love the process of a lot, which actually leads into the next question really, really well. You guys may think that I arrange these questions to segue well together, and if you think that, you would be correct. But someone asked, is actually anonymous asked, so reveal yourself. I want to know who you are. But someone asked, what is the story behind I'm Not Sorry? And so I'm Not Sorry is a pretty like lyrically like passive aggressive kind of song. And I don't know if this is the same person that has asked me in person more about the song. It could be. But if you're expecting any tea to be spilt about kind of like the passive aggressive nature of the song actually isn't written about anybody. I think that's one of the beautiful things as a songwriter is you can write things off of even experiences that haven't necessarily happened. This one's definitely one of just, it started off as when I started producing the song. It felt like this really kind of like sneaky, kind of darker undertone kind of song. And as a songwriter, kind of naturally what I do is feel out kind of what the vibe of the song is, and then we'll build the lyrics and stuff off of that. And so it kind of felt like a backstabby, somebody is going to, kind of mess with you in a negative way. And so how do you kind of approach those kind of people of, rather than being, for me, I can be a people pleaser. And so rather than, apologizing and kind of begging to every, ask and whim that people have, and just saying yes to everything, rather than, doing that, just kind of being the person that I am and doing what is best for myself and the people that my life kind of impacts and stuff like that. So if you're expecting any tea, I apologize. The song's not about anybody. Next, David asks, who produced the songs off your album? So I produced all the songs I by myself produced all the songs apart from two. So I produced all of them. The one song I co-produced with Andrew, who is my mixing engineer. He mixes and masters all the tracks for the most part. And so I co-produced All We Have, All We Need with him. And then Safe and Sound. If you guys know about Nick D, Connor Price, those guys who are like really big influences on the way I create music, their producer who produces a lot of their stuff, Graham, goes by 100 Graham. He also puts out his own music and goes by just his name, Graham. He produced Safe and Sound, but everything else I produced. As much as I love songwriting and things like that, production, I've been doing production for almost 10 years now. And I love it. It's a lot of fun. So I produce most of that stuff. So that's not like a pat myself on the back type of thing. But yeah, so that is that. Great question, David. Next question is from Bill. He asked, what is mixing and mastering? Sorry. This is a great question. I know for me, I mention mixing and mastering a lot because I used to self-mix and self-master. And if you listen to my old projects, anything like 2021 and before, it's pretty bad. It's not good. And that's because I did not have a mixing engineer. And so I talk a lot about the guy that does all my mixing and stuff, Andrew Simmons. He goes by Music by Drew on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. He is phenomenal. I'm going to shout him out all the time. He's amazing. He makes my songwriting processes easier. He makes it more fun for me to put out music because I don't have to focus on the headache that does come with mixing and mastering. I can just create. So he definitely, he makes the process incredible. But get back to the question. What is mixing and mastering? Mixing and mastering, let's focus on them separately. So mixing is whenever you go into record, you create separate tracks. So there's however many vocal takes you did that you want in the song, how many different guitar parts, drum part, anything. And so then you take those separate parts and then you basically mixing is adjusting each of those individual audio tracks, adjusting the volume, adjusting things like EQ, compression, things like that to make the sounds enhanced, to make them sound the best that they can, to where they're not just you go in and record and that's it. You can add a lot of really cool sounds and a lot of really cool things to make the song sound more full. So that's mixing the individual tracks. And then mastering is basically taking what, once the mixing engineer has all of the individual tracks mixed, they would either send them off to be mastered, or in Andrew's case, he masters them himself. And so then at that point, you go from, rather than having separate audio files to adjust the sound, you have just one audio file, which is the master track, and then you can adjust the overall sound of the track as a whole. So I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, Bill, but for anybody else that's interested in that, go check out YouTube tutorials or talks on mixing and mastering. There's tons. Anything involving production, mixing, mastering, and stuff, there's YouTube videos on it. And so definitely check some of that stuff out. So hopefully that answered your question as much as I could. Next is from Dominique. This one's a really, really good question. I was excited that somebody asked this. Most of the songs on the album is previously released singles. Is there a reason for that? And the answer is very much yes. There's a reason for that. So what this means for anybody that doesn't know kind of how singles work and everything like that, if you're just somebody that's like, I listen to music and that's it. This is a very, very good question. So I release, or at least in the context of Uno, I released most every song on the album as a single, so as an individual song on their own over the course of a couple of months, close to a year. And the reason for that is based on kind of how we live in a technologically social media driven world currently. And so rather than 20, 30 years ago when people were putting out songs, a lot of bands would just go in the studio for a couple of months, record an album, and then put it out, and then that's what it was, which I love that. I think there's still people that do that today that are very successful, that it works out for them. But for people in my position that are independent artists who are trying to, get their name out there, get better at it, have people get to know their music more and things like that, basically gaining a fan base, it's very, very hard for people to find any sort of interest in just grabbing an album from somebody and just listening to it. Not to say there aren't people like that, and I'm sure a lot of you listening or watching are like, I go and just randomly look up new albums and I fall in love with new artists that way. I think that's great. I do that sometimes. However, the general listener doesn't. I think because of Spotify playlists and things like that, people are always looking for new stuff, and it's more of just they'll listen to one song rather than a full project. And so for the majority of people, whenever you put out a lot of singles and you put out, there's definitely times where I'll go and I'll release a song a month or a song every 2 weeks, building up to a project, because I want people to hear the songs in bite-sized pieces. And it also gives opportunity for new listeners to engage with more content. And so I'll release songs on their own. I'll release a bunch of songs on their own to eventually get to, I do love albums. I'm a big album person. I love listening to albums start to finish. I'm still very much that kind of person. I know I'm technically Gen whatever. I'm not a millennial, but I don't think I'm Gen Z. I don't know. I'm young. And so I know I'm in the minority with things like that, but I do love albums. And so for this, I released a lot of the songs as singles, but ultimately the end goal was to release them on a collective project, if that makes sense. And so yeah, hopefully that answers the question. I know that's kind of all over the place to a degree, but yeah, it is very intentional, and you'll even notice now too, you guys kind of get the scoop on it. The most recent song I just put out this past week of when I'm filming this is called With You. That is the first single off of what's going to be an EP. So there's going to be more songs, and those songs will actually be released every 2 weeks up until the full EP is released. And so I found that strategy to work pretty well for me. And the reason why it's worked well for me is on the single side of releasing individual singles, it gives me the ability on social media to create content around specific songs and not have to worry about a huge bulk amount of songs at one time. I can focus on creating content for one song over the course of, whether it be 2 weeks or a month. And then new people will find that song left and right as more content is put out around it. So then by the time it gets to where a full project is out, you got new people in your fan base that are now checking out your whole collective project because they fell in love with one song. And so that's the intentionality. But then also I found on the other end, once a full EP or a full album does come out, I've noticed people that are closer to me, like family and friends and stuff, that didn't listen to hardly any of the singles, end up listening to the whole project. And they're like, oh man, I love this one song. I'm like, that's great. I'm glad you love it. That song's been out for almost a year now. But it ends up being good because then you've got people who are family or close friends or people who really rock with what you do, who are excited that you put out a full thing, but then you've got new fans that are coming in at the same time. So long-winded answer to a great question. So yes, there's very much a reason for releasing songs as singles and then them coming together as a full project. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Next one. Now we're getting out of album related questions and more just general stuff from the looks of it. So this next question is from Chavius. He says, Don't Hold Your Breath is my favorite song of yours. Thank you very much for that first. My favorite song of yours. Are you still planning to write more like that song? So Don't Hold Your Breath is an older song. That's actually, I think, the last song that I released self-mixing and mastering, self-producing, self-mixing, self-mastering. And it's very much like a heavy hard rock song. It's not like poppy as much and stuff like that as much as the stuff that I put out more frequently. But am I still planning to write more like that? I'm always writing stuff in different genres all the time. Whether or not it gets released is the different story. And so that one's hard to answer. Will I ever put out heavier hard rock type stuff? I'm sure I will. Whether or not it'll be under my name or a side project or I write a rock song and then, give it to another band or something like that. That's a different story. So that one is not a no, but it's not like I'm putting out a hard rock or a metal record next month. That's not necessarily the case. So hopefully that answers your question. Which leads into Anonymous. Another Anonymous. Yeah, listen, let me know who you are. Maybe you just didn't want to, you knew I was going to do a podcast and you didn't want your name to be called. That's fine. Also, you can stay anonymous if you want to. Will ETF ever get back together? Oh my goodness. So for context, ETF, Embrace the Forever. That was my first band, first music project ever. Whenever I was in high school, started out as a contemporary Christian worship type situation and then evolved into hard rock metal band over time. Will we ever get back together? Short answer is no. Not because we don't get along. All five of the members, actually, we see each other frequently. Four of us work together. All five of us collectively hang out multiple times over the course of a month and stuff like that. So we very much get along. Will we ever get back together though? Short answer is no. But we've left it on the table of, if we ever want to do something we can. But I will say, if you're out there and you're just a random, you still, for whatever reason, have listened to ETF, for whatever reason, one of our like 5 fans, if you pay us $5,000, I guarantee you we'll get back together for a show. $5,000. If you're close family or close friends, for $2,500, we'll do a show for you. We'll do a 7-song set for $2,500. How about that? That way, $500 for each of us, and travel fees. It sounds like we're getting back together for the I'm just kidding. For the right amount of money. We'll do a show. How about that? So, the price is out on the table. You do with that information what you will. So, where was I at? I keep losing my place. I don't know if y'all know, I'm a little scatterbrained. I'm not diagnosed with ADD, but I think something's in there. All right, next. This one's a really interesting one. Philip asked, do you put out worship music too? I see your clips from singing at your church and just wanted to know. I was dyslexic there for a second, couldn't read. Do you put out worship music too? So this one's a good question, and surprisingly, this comes up because I do lead worship at my church. I play multiple instruments, I help do a lot of different hands-on stuff within the team at my church. Do I put out worship music? Not currently. That's not me saying I never will. But the music that I put out, I'm a big person on whether you're a Christian or not, whatever. When it comes to Christian music, that lane and that genre is not something that I'm personally interested in as of this stage of life. I see friends and people that I look up to who that space really works well for them. For me, it doesn't, just stylistically and songwriting wise. I wouldn't say that I put out worship music. I wouldn't say that I put out Christian music. That doesn't mean that I shy away from my faith or I don't talk about it or anything like that. I've got lots of songs in my catalog that do talk about elements of my faith, but it's in a very generalized way where people can listen to it that are not associated with Christianity or religion as a whole. And so, do I currently put out worship music? No. Do I write worship music? Yeah. There's tons of files and sessions on Logic in my laptop that are very much worship songs that are very private and personal to me. Will I ever put those out? Maybe. I don't know. Will I ever put out a worship project? If the moment ever feels right for me to do that, then yes, I will. But as of right now, I wouldn't put out anything right now. But yeah, like I said, my faith is very much a core part of everything that I do. And you could go and listen to, you've got songs like Bad Habit off of the new album that have very much elements of my faith in it. Safe and Sound is very much one. There's a lot of elements and metaphors that deal a lot with my faith. You dive into Coping Mechanism, my EP, where there's very much remnants of when I went through dealing with a lot of loss and dealing with a lot of just dark times in 2022. 2022 was such a hard year for me, and it really shook my faith as a Christian. And it made me doubt a lot of things. It made me question a lot of things, which ultimately, what started as something dark ended up forming into what I would consider is a healthy version of my relationship with God, the healthiest it's been. And a lot of those songs have a lot of remnants of that just talk about my struggle with my faith, but ultimately what helped restore it in the process too. So I definitely am not afraid to talk about my faith by any means. I'm very open about it. And a lot of, songwriting friends and people who I collaborate with who don't share the same beliefs as me, very much, have encouraged me to continue to be open about it. They hold a respect for it. And I appreciate that there are so many people out there that may not see eye to eye with me on the same things are still so open and appreciate the fact that I'm willing to talk about it, because it is something important to me. And so to not talk about it would be a disservice and a lie, I think. And I think especially as a songwriter, you should be true to who you are and what your reality is. So hopefully that answered your question. That doesn't stop me. I very much still sing at my church. If you ever want to come to Propel Church in Mount Pleasant, North Carolina. I sing there pretty frequently. I'll play instruments and stuff, but the team as a whole is incredible. We have such an incredible team on our worship team and stuff, and production and all that stuff. So, so yeah, great question. I really appreciate you asking that. Let's read through. Let's do one more. Let's close out with one more question, and then maybe we'll do more of these. So if you guys are into kind of this feel and this style of a podcast of it just being me kind of talking, let me know. And maybe I can make more of these types of things happen. So yeah, let's do one more. Tracy asks, will you teach me to write music? This is a good one though, honestly, because writing music can seem like such a daunting thing, especially for somebody who is like, if you're what I would consider musically inclined, you like maybe don't necessarily, sorry, hit my mic. Don't necessarily play an instrument, or maybe you do play an instrument, but you don't fully know the like how to write, record, all that kind of stuff. It can seem very much like a huge unattainable thing for somebody in that space. I remember when I was a kid and listening to old like Linkin Park records. Linkin Park's what made me want to do music, but listening to some of bands like that or artists that I hear the sounds and I hear how incredible these creations are and stuff like that. I remember it seeming overwhelming to even be able to do that. I think picking up an instrument and playing, it was like, yeah, I can do that or whatever. Or getting together with buddies and playing music together, that was always like kind of easy to think about. But writing felt like it was so beyond my reach. And as I got older, I realized it's actually not as complicated as what it may seem. And so, will I teach you to write music? I'm definitely open. My schedule itself is pretty crazy. So I may not necessarily do like one-on-one sessions. Maybe I will, but I'm making brainstorm ideas of like charging, a certain amount of money to have like one-on-one sessions. I'm definitely open for that. But what I can do is, maybe I can, if any of you guys listening or watching are interested in this type of stuff, I can break down different aspects of writing music. I think I already have a couple videos on Creative Corner on the YouTube channel where there is some like practicals on how to write music. But maybe I can kind of dust off that kind of like teaching side of things. And I would love to be able to make content like that if people are interested in that. And so I can talk about whether it comes to writing a song, creating melodies, production, software to use, things like that. I'm definitely open to that. But shorter answer, maybe some encouragement for you is, for right now, let me know things you would want to learn, but then also anything that you would want to learn in general too, you can typically YouTube anything. There's a lot of, I love people that have gone to these crazy Ivy League level music schools and learn all these different things. And I appreciate there's a respect there, there's an art there. And I think that there's absolutely value in doing things like that. But we're also in such a technologically driven world where people who are so smart and so talented are creating resources for free on YouTube. And so I would say any questions you have, how to write melodies, how to create chords, how to learn an instrument, anything like that, type those questions into YouTube, and I promise you'll find something on it, on whatever it may be. So yeah, I think these are all like such great questions, and this is it's a different format for me. And so if you guys are interested in more things like this, more videos like this, more podcasts like this, be sure to let me know in the comments if you're interested in that. And if you also have any other questions that you would want asked, go ahead and ask them in the comments, or you can send me a message on Instagram, on Facebook, things like that. And would love to answer any of your questions or anything you guys are interested in. And so thank you guys so much for listening, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you're watching through YouTube, anything like that. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Be sure to like the video if you liked it. comment below any sort of things that you want to see in the future. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, all that kind of stuff, all the fancy, promotional stuff. I definitely appreciate anybody that's connected through any of that stuff. It means the world, and it keeps support and content like this coming. And so also be sure to, if you want to learn more about my music, kind of the creation of it, anything like that, you can you can listen to all my new music on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. But you can connect with me on social media as well. And you can connect with Creative Corner Company as well for all those resources and things like that. So thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Writer's Block. Really appreciate it, and excited for more episodes here in the future with more guests, more people who can give you a lot more insightful feedback on their own personal journeys creating music or creating anything within that space. And I'm excited to see what kind of feedback comes from this and the future episodes. There's some incredible episodes that we've got coming up soon and some great guests. So be sure to stay tuned to all of that, and we will see you next time.